Well, I don't think I could have asked for a more full, dynamic, refractive day than I had yesterday. Right? I started off here with the show and talking about how God is setting up a place for us, that He wants us to come home and to be emotionally in His home, that Jesus said, I can't wait for you to see my dad's house. What it's going to be like. It's beyond imagination. You couldn't even think how awesome it's going to be when I get home and I take you with me. And so I went from there to Starbucks, my morning ritual, routine, whatever you want to call that. I cracked open my book and I got my coffee and I started reading. And I had a planned meeting for a young man who recently stopped and visited with me. He and his wife have both been in some classes that I've taught at Gateway, and we were talking about the nature of his business, because his business is getting rid of my crazy squirrels in my attic. And then we evolved to some things that he wants to break into where he feels like God is calling him, and that is in the realm of video editing and graphic design. And I said, well, when you get a chance, if you're bored, take a look at our transforminggrace.tv website and tell me what you think of it. And he agreed. It's laughable. It nowhere represents what we're capable of or what we're doing. And that's because I built it, and that's not my forte. It's my last resort because I have no budget exercise. And so he met me to transfer some stuff on a hard drive. And while I was waiting for him, I got the call that my son and his girlfriend, fiance, whatever you want to label them, were on their way to the hospital because the baby's coming. And so I contacted my boss and said, is there any chance I could do my work from the hospital today? Because I need to be there when baby comes. Well, they induced at about 7 a.m. and baby arrived at 5:02 p.m. And in that time, I had several phone calls. I got the rest of the team lined up that's going to the Congo with us to teach government leadership. I had several conversations with other people who are working on projects like Today with God to take the gospel all over the world in various languages. In fact, one who's been doing it for 2 or 3 decades and has Old Testament stuff that's already been translated. I'm really excited about that. While I'm sitting at Starbucks working through this, waiting for the guy to show up for the video, making the phone calls, trying to get my day rearranged so I can be there when baby Ellie arrives, this gentleman sitting at the table right in front of me is just studying his heart out. I mean, writing notes and flipping back and forth. And I realized that the pastor I had talked to the other day was over in this corner. He was studying his eyes out too. And I was doing my reading and all these things going on in my head. And this guy, he's just studying his eyes out. And I said, what are you studying? And he looked at me and he's like, I've seen you in here 100 times. I've never talked to you before. And I said, what are you studying? He said, Jonah. I said, what are you learning? He said, it's amazing to me that we all still have bitterness and racism and hatred in our hearts, and we don't go where God tells us to go. He said that's the whole reason Jonah ended up in the belly of a whale. He wouldn't obey God to go into God's kingdom, into God's people who were living in sin, because he hated those people so much. He's like, I'd rather burn in hell with them to see them in heaven. And that sparked quite an interesting conversation he and I had for probably half an hour while we were waiting on the young man to show up. Then we transferred the videos and we all parted ways, and I rushed to the hospital, and I got to spend the day working on my work project, writing Bible studies, and at the same time engaging with the new parents before the baby got there. And then I got the call that Revive Texas wanted me to come and represent media at one of the venues and pray for the media as the National Day of Prayer and Revive Texas merged together. But that was in South Fort Worth, so I had to fight traffic and drive an hour to get there. And so now it's crunch time, and I'm waiting for this to happen. I'm waiting for the baby to come. I'm waiting to have to leave, and I'm waiting for the baby to come, and I'm waiting. And at 5:02, she makes her debut. And about 5:20, I got to see her and take pictures of her. And then I had to jump on the road and run as fast as I legally could to get to Southwest Fort Worth. And then I encountered police officers and business people and school teachers who had gathered together to pray for our nation, to pray for impact directly in our communities. I met a guy who had baptized 2 of his store patrons, customers, who came into his store. He was the guy praying for business. But he was doing the work of the kingdom as a store manager in a retail shop. led this girl to Christ right there between the Gatorade and the Cheetos, and then took her out to the mobile baptism truck in the parking lot and baptized her in the faith. That's what kingdom work looks like. I got to pray with a police officer that almost 10 years ago, when I went through the Fort Worth Citizens Police Academy, was one of the instructors. Now he's the deputy chief. And we got to have a little bit of a conversation. I got to pray over him and his family and the police department for security and for health and for safety and for split-second wisdom from the Holy Spirit. There's so many times that we get caught up in the little things of our own lives, the little struggles of our self. And we forget that simultaneously all these other lives are going on. Just to imagine what God orchestrated yesterday and the number of people in the different places that I could make contact is mind-boggling. I'm sure you've seen shows like Outbreak, where they talk about patient zero and how the infection starts with patient zero, and then patient zero gets on an airplane in Paris and flies from Paris to London, and from London to New York City, and from New York City to Houston, and from Houston to San Francisco. And then all of the lives that they have touched with this virus of Ebola or whatever it is. This outbreak happens because one person moves from one locale where they have an impact to another locale where they have even more impact, and to another locale where they have even more impact. And then those people, maybe the ones in the Houston airport, got on a plane and went to Singapore. They got on a plane and they went to Montana, or they got on a plane and they went to Hawaii. And now that infection is spreading through all of these points of contact. What if that infection, what if that virus, what if that thing that we're going viral, instead of cats fighting or bunny rabbits doing what bunny rabbits do, what if that thing that went viral was you loving someone? You helping someone out? Now, I know it's not a news story. I've seen it around on Facebook before, but I shared it again yesterday when I saw it in my timeline. Because while it's not new, it's newsworthy. It's ironic to me, after the Delta passenger being drug off the plane and displayed on Facebook Live, which, for what it's worth, there's no mention of the number of people who showed up in that video who did not give authorization to be broadcast live around the world. I'm just saying. But after that video, we now have people coming out of the woodwork who have some kind of complaint looking for a payday against Delta and American and every other airline, that somehow they've been mistreated. I've seen 3 of them in the last 48 hours. But the one that I shared was the one about the lady who was boarding the plane. The plane was on the taxiway, about to take off, and suddenly stopped, turned around, and went back to the gate. The airline attendant came right to her seat and asked her to leave and get off the plane. No explanation until after she got to the gate. When they got to the gate, they said, "We've already had contact. We need you to call your husband." She had turned her cell phone off like a good passenger does when they get in the aircraft and they're told, turn off your electronics. Her husband had been frantically trying to call her, and he had called Southwest Airlines instead and said, "Hey, I need to talk to my wife. She's on this flight." Well, knowing what the nature of the conversation was that she was about to have with her husband, because the airline had already had this conversation with her husband, when she finished her phone call, devastated to learn that her son had been in an accident and suffered a traumatic head injury in another state, and not the state her ticket was taking her to. As soon as she finished the phone call, Southwest Airlines handed her a ticket to the state where her son was in the hospital. They arranged ground transportation. They took care of her lunch. They forwarded her luggage. They had a place set up for her to stay, and they paid for all of it. Because that's what good people do. It wasn't about profit. It was about people. And it's an amazing thing when that kind of thing goes viral, when that kind of good deed gets spread, when the miracles of our human existence, where God steps into our universe and God says, "I got this." Not always does that miracle look like the parting of the Red Sea, where 5 million people stand back and look at each other and go, well, that ain't never happened before. Sometimes it's that overheard conversation and a little extra tip. Sometimes it's that opportunity to bless someone you've never met before, you know nothing about, and there's a high chance you'll never see them again. I had that opportunity last night too. My phone was dead by the time I was ready to head home at close to 11 o'clock. But I was also famished because it'd been almost 12 hours since I'd eaten anything. So I stopped at a Denny's. And I overheard a guy talking about how he had TV shoots and blah, 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 and all these Christian film things that he was working on that he had to get done today, and kind of braggadocious, kind of loud. I don't know how much of it's true or not. I just know that everyone in the restaurant heard him talking about that. I also know when the server came to take care of the check, he said, do you have change for a $100 bill? And she said, well, no, I don't. Ironically, I noticed coming through the door that traveler's checks, personal checks, and bills over 20s were not accepted. It seemed ironic to me that he would ask her, do you have change for 100? When she said, I don't have change for 100, he said, well, I only have a little bit of money left on my credit card, so I'll tip you what I can. Turns out it was just less than 10%. It was already a slow night. Didn't look like it was going to get any better for her at close to 11. And I realized that's probably not going to be a strong evening for her. And I've only ordered $8 worth of food, so I ordered some more. And then I asked her, and she was honest. I said, in the end, how much did he tip you? And she told me. So without her looking and without any other conversation about it, I just made my tip more than my ticket. Because I can right now. I can't every day, but last night I could, so I did. And I pray that God blesses her with that. Just the opportunity. Miracles don't always look like the parting of the Red Sea or the raising of the dead or the healing of the sick or the restoring sight to the blind. While those are wonderful miracles, sometimes miracles are when you get outside yourself and you don't think selfishly about you, but you think about somebody nearby you. You strike up a conversation with an absolute stranger for no reason other than to bless them, to say a kind word to them, to compliment them on something that maybe everyone else has missed. It's not complicated. It's not even hard to do. But if you want to leave an impact in this world, consider yourself perpetually the patient zero of the gospel of Jesus Christ, the gospel of love and grace. Allow yourself to be the one that walks into the Houston Hobby Airport or the Washington Dulles Airport or the Belgium International Airport or the Dallas Love Field as patient zero and says, I'm going to infect as many people as I can with the love of Jesus Christ before I land at my destination. Whether it's at Starbucks or it's at school or it's on your way in traffic. Be intentional about being loving and being infectious. That's my challenge for you today. Now, for those of you who are in media, the Global Media Summit is going on right now. It starts in just a few minutes maybe not a few minutes, maybe an hour. Yeah, probably not going to start at 7. It'll probably start at 8. At the Gaylord Texan in the Dallas area, right north of the DFW airport. But there will be probably more insight than you could muster. Hundreds of people, dozens in media, dozens who have written books and published hundreds of books, and they are there to pour into you. I will be speaking on Saturday. I believe the time is 2 o'clock. I will know before I get there what time I speak, but I will be there Saturday speaking in the marketing room. So if you would like some insights in marketing, there will be some serious heavy hitters and then me. They always have to have somebody they feel sorry for to be a part of that. But I will be there talking about marketing strategies. I'd love for you to be a part of it. If you missed the social boot camp yesterday, I don't know if they're going to have replays or not, but I hear tell that was pretty impressive stuff as well. Thelma Wells spoke yesterday. John James from the Newsboys spoke the day before at the Fighting for Your Soul conference, along with Brenda Crouch and Cynthia Clark, and some incredible people. So you need to check out the Global Media Summit, Gaylord Texan. I believe you can still get tickets at Global Media Summit or gmsummit.org. I will find the link for you to get tickets and put it in the comments below in case you're interested in going. But it's a great opportunity for you to be involved and to learn about what's coming new in Christian media and television broadcast. Dr. Randy Weiss, who's been with the NRB for more than 20 years, will be there. He's also my boss at Crosstalk International and Today with God and IBN Television Network. So the opportunities to learn from some veterans in the industry is definitely there. Josh Weiss will be talking about marketing strategies and media as well. So you want to be a part of that. We'd love for you to come out, even if you can just come out and hang out at the Gaylord. The gala is tonight. Tickets are only it's tomorrow night. Tickets are only $75. It's gonna blow your socks off. I know that Kevin Sorbo and his wife Sam are in town, so you may have seen them in God's Not Dead. There's a chance to meet some real superstars, and a chance to really learn some great things about Christian media. So I challenge you to do that as well. Come and join us at the Gaylord Texan tonight for the Global Media Summit. It's going on all day today and all day tomorrow as well. I'd love to have you. I am J. Lauren Norris with Tell It Like It Is TV. Have a blessed day.